First story. I walked in on employees having X, and I think there's a X club in my office. I am the manager of a customer service team of about 12 members. Most of the team members are right out of school, and this is their first professional job, and their ages range from 22 to 24. I am about 10 years older than all of my employees. We have a great team, and great working relationships. They all do great work, and we have established a great team culture. Well, a couple of months ago, I noticed something odd that my team and other employees in the building started doing. They would see each other in the hallways or break room and say, "Quack quack like a duck." I assumed this was an inside joke and thought nothing of it and wrote it off as playful silliness, or thought I perhaps missed a moment in a recent movie or TV show to which the quacks were referring. Fast forward a few months. I needed to do some printing, and our printer is in a room that can be locked by anyone when it is in use. Our team often has large volumes of printing they need to do, and it helps to be able to sort things in there by yourself, as multiple people can get their pages mixed up, and it turns into a mess. The door had been locked the entire day, and this was around noon. And the manager, I have the key to the door in case someone forgot to unlock it when they left. I walked in, and there were two of my employees on the couch in the copier room having X. I immediately closed the door and left. This was last week, and as you can imagine, things are very awkward between the three of us. I haven't addressed the situation yet because of a few factors. This was during both of their lunch hours. They were not doing this on the clock, they had both clocked out. I immediately checked. We have an understanding that you can go or do anything on your lunch that you want, as long as you're back after an hour. Also, as you mentioned in your answer last week to the person who overheard their co-worker involved in adult activities, these people are adults and old enough to make their own choices. But that's not the end of the story. That same day, after my team had left, I was wrapping up and putting a meeting agenda on each of their desks for our meeting the next day. Out in broad daylight on the guy's desk, one of the employees I had caught in the printing room was a piece of paper at the top that said Duck Club. Underneath it, it had a list of locations of places in and around the office followed by points. 25 points. President's desk. 10 points. Car in the parking lot. 20 points. Copier room. Etc. So here is my theory about what is going on, and I think I am right. This Duck Club is a club people at work where people get points for having X in these locations around the office. I think that is also where the quacking comes into play. Perhaps this is some weird mating call between members to let them know they want to get some points with the other person. And if they quack back, they meet up somewhere to score. The two I caught in the copier room, I have heard quacking before. I know this is all extremely weird. I wasn't even sure I wanted to write you because of how weird this seems, plus I was a little embarrassed. I have no idea what to do. As I mentioned above, they weren't on the clock when this happened. They're all adults. And technically I broke a rule by entering the copier room when it was locked, and would have never caught them if I had obeyed that rule. The only company rule I can think of that these two broke is using the copier room for other purposes, preventing someone else from using it. I would love to know your opinion on this. I tend to want to sweep it under the rug because I'm kind of a shy person, and would be extremely embarrassed to bring it up. Update. I first want to defend something I said in my original letter against some of the comments of your posters. I said originally that at my job we had a great work culture, and that basically the team I led worked well together and got along. It seems some of the commenters took exception to this because of what turned out to be going on behind the scenes. Just because this was going on doesn't make what I said any less true. We do get along great. We are all high performers. So I take exception to some of the comments that suggested this was untrue, or that I was being naive. Anyway, I did take your advice and go to my manager. Suffice it to say it was kind of awkward. Thankfully the timeline on when I found out to when I told him never came up. So he wasn't aware that I took so long to tell him. Anyway, he told me he had heard some whispers of other things like this from other people. Not necessarily catching people in the act, but just some weird instances going on. For example, a few people reported that it looked like their cars had been broken into, but nothing had been stolen. The reason they noticed something was because their seats had been pushed all the way forward, perhaps some duck members scoring more points. He also mentioned that another co-worker of ours reported that on one of the 3 slots in the tampon dispenser in the ladies' room had never worked and had been labeled out of order, and had been so ever since I can remember. She just happened to let her curiosity get the best of her one day and turned the knob, and what came out? A condom. Weird. I know. I have no idea who loads those things. If it's the maintenance workers, or if we have someone in the office that's responsible for it, or if it's serviced by a third-party company. That's the one I thought was really strange. Perhaps this is where the Duck Club comes to get their protection. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into that one. Anyway, we scheduled a meeting with my boss's boss for the next day. He's one of the top guys in the company, and that was also awkward. I told him what I encountered, and what my suspicions were for the Duck Club. He asked me if I had any proof aside from catching the 2 employees in the act, and the sheet on my employee's desk that I came across that there was a Duck Club, and I said no. But I thought it was easy to connect the dots. He played this off as basically people will do what they want to and kids will be kids. He acted like I was trying to stir up trouble by making leaps to things that didn't exist, and that I should write it off as a one-time event and not blow it out of proportion. Also, he kinda chuckled when I called it a Duck Club, and laughed when I said I had heard people quacking at each other. So when the meeting was over and my boss and I left his office, he said, "You guys have a good day." Quack quack. Now I don't know if he was doing that to mock me and my take on the whole situation, or if that was perhaps a subtle way of him saying, "Yes, I know about the club. And not only am I aware of it, I also am a member, but perhaps that's me reading too much into it once again." My manager and I were kind of dumbfounded when we left his supervisor's office by the way he responded. My manager was also surprised that his supervisor suggested we not address the situation at all. But we both decided that, taking everything into consideration, we could just roll with this weirdness to work where we do. We are very nicely paid with great benefits and generous vacation time. We also love what we do and love our team, even the quacks. I am fine to let this pass and never speak of it again, and can live with it knowing that nothing will be done about it, and I won't be in trouble for not doing anything now that I have done my part in reporting it. I know that may sound weird, but I'd rather stay here and work because it actually is a relief knowing that, even though the decision of the higher-ups was to not address it, that I won't at least be held responsible if anything else ever comes with it. I do have proof that I reported it because my manager would back me if anything ever came of this news. I am also happy to say that I can now speak to the 2 I caught in the act without blushing now, and we've moved on, even though nothing was ever said verbally about it. I am sorry. Everyone is fired. No rules against it, my butt. I can think of a ton of reasons human resources would be interested in this happening, and why it's a liability for the company to have this occurring. These people are idiots. That's basically what Allison said. You can't have a rule or everything cause you can't think of everything. And this falls squarely into behavior that is just generally not acceptable in an office. Also makes your company liable if people feel harassed by having to witness it. Madness. I would love to see this converted into a film. Edited and scored like a horror movie. Written and directed by Jordan Peele. But with nothing at all more nefarious going on than a few coworkers hooking up in weird spots. The executive quacking at them as he dismissed them would make for an amazing horror film ambiguous ending stinger, with the right dramatic pauses and editing choices. Honestly, that's pretty nefarious though. I would feel like I was an invasion of the body snatchers, and I was the only human left if I realized this was happening at my workplace. This whole thing is not only completely wild and unprofessional. It also seems really unsanitary. One of the locations mentioned was the president's desk, and I am sure they're not really concerned with cleaning it off very thoroughly when they're done. I would not be comfortable using the printing room knowing that at least 2 of my coworkers and possibly more had been having X in there. And there's also the implication that they're breaking into people's cars to have X, and everyone is just fine with letting this continue. Oh God, the smells. Closed cars often used. Always closed copier room. Second story. My 35 male girlfriend 31 female is threatening to break up with me if I don't stop helping my friend 33 female. About 6 years ago, I was in a snowboarding accident, and my recovery involved quite a bit of post-traumatic. While doing that, I met my friend Cindy. She was in a pretty bad accident, and we kind of hit it off at the office. We started hanging out together a lot since we were both physically limited. We used to go on limps or hobbles together instead of walks. We ended up becoming really good friends, and she is essentially family to me. Over the years she has had a few surgeries. And usually I help her out for a bit after. She recently had extensive AC surgery. AMD is struggling. She is in a lot of pain, and is just overall a depressed. She tends to get that way when she is feeling even more limited than normal. I have been trying to stop by as much as I can, and have been spending the night at her place a lot because I worry about her being alone, and I know having me there helps her because I know what it's like to feel trapped in my own body. I also know she will actually let me help her and ask me for help, while she struggles to do that with a lot of others. It's been about 6 weeks since the surgery, and realistically, she is probably looking at another couple weeks until she is back to some semblance of normal for her. So my plan has been to just keep on keeping on. She is getting there, and this will be over soon. The issue is my girlfriend of just over a year, Jenny. Jenny knows Cindy well, and always seemed to like her. Jenny knew that sometimes I would stay over with Cindy when she was having a hard time or had surgery. And she always said she thought that it was very sweet, and she admired that. She was also completely supportive of me helping Cindy after this surgery. She was actually there for a lot of the conversations leading up to it. Drove down to be there when we picked her up from the hospital, and brought her home, and stayed the first few days with me to help out. Hell. She even made a FB post about what a wonderful man I was and so caring and compassionate towards those I care about with all the heart emojis. Jenny was aware of the timeline for the recovery. She was aware that I would probably be spending nights there pretty regularly. Jenny works during the week, and we live about 45 minutes apart. So it isn't unusual for us to not see each other during the week at all. But I am not as talkative or responsive as normal. I try to let her know I am just tired from everything. But that is pretty normal in a situation like this. I have been making a point to spend weekends with Jenny, and she has an open invitation at Cindy's, or my house anytime, if she wants to drive down and stay. This week she has done a total 180. She seems angry, maybe even a bit jealous of Cindy, and has told me she no longer wants me to be going over there all the time. She says Cindy is milking it for attention, and if I continue to go play house, then she can't see this working out, and she will have to end things. I have really never seen this side of her, and I am not even sure how to respond. I tried to ask her to elaborate more, but she just keeps saying it's time for me to stop babysitting, and putting more focus on her and our relationship. My feelings and emotions are all over the place here. I love this woman, and have been thinking about moving closer to her. If not actually in together leading up to this. But now, I don't really know. She was so on board when this started, and I almost felt like she bragged about how we were helping her. And how I was such a good BF and person, and it showed that I had potential. I feel like maybe she had some fantasy in her head regarding what this would all involve, though it has literally been spelt out to her, and now that she doesn't like the slightly unpleasant realities of it. And she is no longer getting told what great people we are. And it is no longer fun. She wants me to just tell Cindy sorry. Change of plans. Good luck. I am not the only person who helps her out. It is definitely a group effort. But when she decided to go through with this, she did it knowing I would be there to help her like I normally would. Especially because we knew the recovery time would be a bit longer and Jenny was supportive of that. I can't just tell. Her plans changed mid-recovery. And honestly, I don't know what is even going on with Jenny. Too long didn't read. I agreed to help my friend after surgery. The recovery has been a bit long but not unexpectedly, and my girlfriend was supportive of it. But now she wants me to stop helping her. So your one girlfriend is mad that you basically have a second girlfriend that you regularly prioritize above all else. Look, you're a good person for helping out your friend who needs the help. But you can't possibly be so dense that you don't see what is going on here. Right. You have two girlfriends. At the very least, you have a girlfriend and a friend who is a girl that is prioritized over everything else, and has been since you have a deep bond with her, and many shared experiences. Your current girlfriend is not a good person for essentially saying you're not longer allowed to help your friend. But you have to admit that the connection you and your friend has is a little bit deeper than just that. I know it's a bad thing to assume, but the situation is pretty telling here, and that's given only the information you want us to have to make a judgment. What else is there that might not be being shared? Personally, I would end the relationship with your girlfriend. She's not a great person and you likely have some unresolved thing going on with your friend. But it's really not like that. She is like family to me, yes. And we are friends. But we also have our own lives. She actually is seeing a woman currently. But it is fairly new, and she doesn't want her to be too involved at this point, as it's not anything exclusive. We do go through periods where we hang out more. But it is honestly just a friendship, and if she was my buddy Chad, I would be doing the same thing. I get that. And I understand that you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart. I'm not trying to accuse you of doing something untoward. Deliberately. The issue is that you've had this incredibly deep connection with your friend for a long time. It was built because of shared experiences and struggles. You two have proven to be committed to each other in a friendly way. It's impossible to look at this situation and think of this through the eyes of your girlfriend or other previous girlfriends and not see your friend as the backup. It's literally a trope in movies and TV. That's how common this situation develops. Guy meets girl and they become best friends. Guy prioritizes girl in his life. New partners pretend to be okay with relationship and eventually have a burst. This is where we are in your story. Girlfriend leaves guy because he doesn't realize what is going on. Repeat as many times as necessary. Guy and friend eventually end up together because of their shared past and deep connection. It's the Ted and Robin. The Nick and Jess can't believe they did the same trope twice in one show. The Ross and Rachel. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. Which is probably why your girlfriend is so frustrated. She knows the outcome but can't do anything without being the bad guy. Ross and Rachel ruin everything again. Third story. I think my son and my best friend are sleeping together. I am new to this whole Reddit thing, but I read a few stories to see what I am supposed to say and what information to give. I 47 female work in an office building connected to a warehouse. In the warehouse is where my friend 42 female and son 23 male work. Now I know my son is an adult, but the thing is he is the most shy and non-confrontational person ever. I am just scared that there might be some manipulation at work here, but don't want to say anything till I know more. But over the past few weeks since he started, he seems happier and more excited to go to work and do it. All the evidence I have is both of them going out on same nights. Those nights they show up to work together. They spend their lunches and breaks together, and I've heard a rumor in the warehouse that they were caught holding hands, but I haven't been able to confirm that. Is this all normal? Am I overreading? I've never been a mom to do anything about his dating or soul life, but is this a line I have to draw? I'd confront your friend. Don't shame your son. Especially if you think he's being taken advantage of. But absolutely ask your friend what is up. If she's someone who's known him for years, i.e., before B was legal, in my opinion, that's just not right, and has aspects of being too much. Especially factoring in the two of them working together. She has known him since he was 19, when she did some work on his car. When he got the job in the warehouse, she said she would look after him, and make sure nobody would try to mess with him. I'll be talking with her after work is over. I mean, technically he was legal. But there's a lot about this that feels inappropriate. Not even the age. More the relationship dynamics. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to our channel.